All right, so here with Jeff Thibodeau. Pretty exciting day for me. We are fast becoming friends.
Totally.
And know of you and knew of you in the industry. But as opposed to giving your bio, why don't we have you share kind of who you are and what you're about?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I've had quite a wild ride through the real estate industry over the last, I guess it's been about 14 years, 15 if you count the schooling. But yeah, I got into the business at the tail end of another career in market research, and it didn't really come naturally to me, to be honest. Like it was a struggle at first, but that led me into getting into the training and coaching world and getting absorbed into that to make my own career better. And once I got the right teachers and mentors, things started really happening for me. So we were able to generate a lot of leads, build a sales team around me. And eventually we took that culture of that team and converted it into an entire independent brokerage, a brand new startup, really bootstrapped it. Like we kind of built the office ourselves and we're there every day running meetings, and it was amazing. That came to an end just last year. We actually sold that company and have kind of like pared back to the roots. I'm finding myself working with other motivated professionals, and it's always been my passion to not only kind of come from a more analytical, more logical approach than a salesy type, scripts and dialogues approach, both with clients and with helping other agents. And I find a lot of energy in taking either younger agents or successful agents that are finding their success, maybe their best days, they feel like we're a little bit behind them, and reigniting that career and getting people motivated and excited to go out there and get it.
So one thing you mentioned right early on was that you started out and you weren't really comfortable. Would you say that it's fair that you wouldn't be placed in your typical sales box, like you're not a salesperson as the typical template would suggest? And what was the uncomfortability, and what were some of your key pivotal points in that?
Well, I think if you look back at my resume before getting into real estate, there was nothing consumer facing, no frontline work. Even if I had a job at like my first job at Harvey's, right? I'm in the back cooking fries. At the grocery store, you're a stock boy. At the warehouse, you're just picking orders. So I really came into the industry without any experience doing public speaking or talking to someone or investigating their needs. It was never part of my background. And I'm not sure what your first days on the job were like, but mine were like, good luck, kid, right? It wasn't like there was a program to follow or anyone to kind of show you the way. And even going back 14 years, things we take for granted today, like this content, this podcast, other people sharing, didn't exist, right? And so that's where the struggle came for me. Obviously, I was lucky to be at the right age to have a lot of friends and family either buying their first home or selling their first home. So that got me through the first few years of being basically part-time, right? It wasn't supporting my full income needs. But then I honestly, Scott, I looked at my customer list for the first 3 years and I was like, that's everyone I know, right? Like if I don't figure out how to meet strangers or get out there in the world, then it's going to be probably 5 to 7 years before these people need me again. And at that time I bumped into the coaching world and these kind of outside trainers. So, a lot of our viewers might not know, but there's this whole second industry of independent trainers in the real estate world. So whether you get your mentorship from, the person who hires you or that company or a team or a agent network, but you got to get it from somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so I got it through that type of relationship, and I'm a good student. So when I get plugged into something like that, and I just took the best advice I could from all these already successful people and just started bringing the pieces that made sense to me back to my business. But still to this day, I don't find myself as in the traditional like kind of sales side of things. I find that my role is much more to help. I guess what I say to people is like, they're moving anyways. My goal is to hold your hand and walk you through it with my experience or my analytics or my logical way of thinking, that if we can do this in a more kind of predictable, structured process way, we're going to get the right results. It's not just like, hey, let's try. Right?
Yeah. And I think you were very humble in your bio. So, when you entered into the coaching world, you were sort of enveloped into it. I think Tom Perry, the program, put you center stage. You were kind of a big center stage speaker for them, and they leveraged your talents, if you will. Why do you think that early on you were adopted into that world so quickly? And do you think that the, the sales part of the role was difficult for you, or did you, I guess what I'm saying is the customer facing side, was that more difficult for you? Was it the systems and procedures that were easier?
Yeah, definitely breaking down like a big problem into steps and moving gears. I always say I can like feel the gears click, then the problem solve itself in the head. That's always been much more my base skill set. Like even going back before, my bio, I went to school for computer programming. I spent years in the market research industry looking at huge data sets. Like again, that's kind of where I come from. And I was so this whole being on camera thing is a new part of that life. Like I was very shy. If you weren't going to find me at a party, work in the room and introducing myself to people. But I just happened to start my career right when these kind of social digital tools were starting too. And I remember like we take for granted they're way different today, right? But at the beginning, tools like Facebook and that, it was very much like if you got connected to your friends and you shared stuff, they saw it 100%. Like it was all just friend relationship based. There was no algorithm picking what to see. And so I started using that as my comfort zone, that if I could speak, one to many over a camera, that avoids me having to make 50 phone calls to strangers. And so my whole career became about pushing out the information, pushing out what I know, educating the consumers, all the stuff that you still see people doing today. I'm not going to say I did it first, but I was really early, right, to it. And that started working really well for me. And it's kind of, it's continued on to right here.
And I would say that you wear a lot of hats in the real estate industry. So, real estate coach, real estate investor,
yep,
house renovator, real estate agent. Which one of those hats do you like wearing the best? And maybe which hat do you like wearing the least?
I definitely get, none of them I like the least, right? Because if I've been in a position like you to craft your own life, right? So we've already gotten rid of the parts we don't like. But I definitely enjoy the most the agent support. It's been the best part, like I said, to take, because I have this little different perspective, I can usually sit down with someone who's much more sales focused and kind of see where the issue is, or give them a little unlock, or change the way that they're thinking about something. Even just downstairs, I was speaking with an agent who was really nervous about reaching out to past clients and people in her world. We hear the same thing. I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to be pushy. I'm like, well, what if you thought about it this way? What if it was like, hey, I really liked working with you. Did you like working with me? Obviously, you gave me a great review, right? Wouldn't it be awesome if I didn't have to work with weirdo strangers? I could just work with more people like you. And she's, oh, that's so much easier to say, right? And so I think one of my strong suits is I'm really a sponge. Like I take in all this information. I'm watching the trainings. I'm going to the conferences. I'm participating and talking with agents every day, so that I'm pulling from not just my experience, but being able to see, okay, what does Scott need for the next level? Not what does Jeff say Scott should do, but what do you need? And try to really unlock that for people. And then when you see them, this can be a stressful business, right? If you feel like you're backed into a corner and things aren't working, and you can give someone a little unlock and they can get running again, that's a really satisfying thing. I'd say on the flip side of that, like I like getting my hands dirty too. With the start of my company, we really bootstrapped it. Like at the beginning, I was running the cameras for other people, making their video tours. I was hammering the signs in the ground. And obviously as the company grew, we were able to put other people in place to do that. But I do like staying connected out there in the field. Even though the majority of my income doesn't come from the commission sales side of the business now, I'll still gladly go on a listing appointment, meet with someone, talk for 2 hours about their situation, because it's still all kind of fascinating to me.
Well, I'll tell you what I see in you. You have a genuine love of people. I also think that you have a genuine love to teach what you have been taught or what you have learned. Is that a fair assessment?
I get very excited when I discover something, and I just want to share it with the world. Whether that's a secret hiking spot, or some cool way to write an email different, or the way that the Instagram algorithm is changing. I feel like the things that I get interested in about, I never have a thought of like, oh, this is now going to be my secret, I want to keep it. It's like sometimes to a fault, right? Like before I even have the idea fully formed, I'm on Insta story, like going off about what I'm experiencing today. But I do really feel like, okay, like I'm always searching for the shortcut or the angle in a good way, right? How do I get to my goals with more ease, more grace? And so if I can unlock something for myself and then show it to a bunch of other people, I mean, it's also nice when you do that and the people appreciate it, right? So obviously when you get a lot of thank yous and you see it working and people are crediting you for some of their success, that's all incredible
It
feedback,
is.
right?
Yeah, it is. And so, while we have you here, and I don't have to pay for your coaching, it would be smart of me to say, new agent, tenured agent. What's sort of a piece of your coaching and training that you would say sort of one size fits all? This is something that everyone needs to be doing in the real estate industry right now, and you've seen success when that person adapts or adopts sort of your suggestions. Is there some sort of lane or angle that is working right now?
I'd say the most important thing, and if you recognize yourself in this, you want to take some action quick. But it's this idea of going from being passively waiting for the business to happen to actively creating the business. And now that sounds a little theoretical, so maybe I can like break it down a little bit. But because this comes up in almost every conversation with anybody that's stuck, is it seems like they're waiting, right? It's like the market's not favorable, my product isn't selling, nobody's calling me, and I'm like, okay, but what are we doing to solve any of those problems? So I think people get caught up, in that if your client needs something from you, you know what to do. If your client calls and says, please list my house, yes, accept that offer, counter offer to this, book me a showing for that. Nobody has problems with that in this business. But when nobody's asking you to do anything, what are you doing with your time? And so that's really where I work with people. And if we chunk that down to say, what's the most important thing you can be doing with that active time, not the reactive time where you're answering all your client requests, but in the active time, in the morning or whenever you've got some space, is to think about, did I do something today to initiate a new conversation? Whether that's pick up the phone, right? Or whether that's make a video, whether that's launch ads, whether that's plan my open house. But if you can, by noon on any given day, say that I did what I need to do so that I have generated a conversation, or I'm generating an inbound one for tomorrow based on my marketing efforts, then your problems start to go away in this business. Because the other thing that trips people up is that, this isn't, nobody bats 1,000 in this business, right? You're gonna meet clients that don't go to the finish line, or they're gonna interview you and they don't decide to move forward. And so we get too caught up in having to knock everyone out of the park. And I try to talk to people about this too, that it's like, we got to get out of our head that there's some magical line or script you can call someone up and all of a sudden they're going to go from not wanting to sell their house to selling their house. That's not this business, right? Our business is people are doing this anyways, with or without us. They might as well be doing it with a seasoned vet, a professional, someone who's going to really care. If they're not, they're just going to hire whoever else they bumped into this week. So Switching that mindset, those two things from I don't know what to do to let's give you a list of things to do, right?
So on that, so let's say you're coaching a team, and I know you coach regularly, the crew, that's a team of say 20 agents. When you have a good session with them, what percentage of those agents do you actually see take the suggestions and run with them? You follow up with them a week later and it's like, wow, you know what, I did exactly what you suggested and it sort of changed things, versus, they were listening to you, they really agreed with you at the time and it didn't change anything.
Right.
Where would you see that sort of measuring stick?
Well, it's hard to measure it as a group. There's an old saying right, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. So you can give a lecture and it might not impact anyone because nobody came to see that lecture. And we've all been to a real estate conference like that. Everyone's just waiting to get out to the bar or whatever, right? Or if you, I know we've been in the industry long enough, back when you'd have your continuing education credits, right? And if you could get those by just showing up to a session and checking your phone for the hour and they gave you your credits, that's much different than someone who's showing up to say, I'm looking to learn something today, right? So I do find in the one-on-one sessions, you're actually able to make a lot more impact because that conversation is solely directed at that person's needs, that person's wants, their concerns. In a group, what I try to do from the front of a room is to change the mood, right? If you come in and you feel like everyone's kind of got their energy low, the market shifted or whatever, I try to give people a bit wider perspective. One of my mantras is always this idea of zoom out or zoom up, right? Try to see something from a higher level, get out of the weeds, get out of today's issue and try to zoom out. So, what Ryan will say, after my meeting, they're only certain days a week. So immediately after my meeting, you see productivity start to spur. But I really believe, I've just made one of my own videos this morning about this, that people discount how much our mindset matters in a sales business, right? How we feel about ourselves, even not what you're saying with your words, but what's going on up here is really going to predict your results for the day. And if you wake up thinking, nobody's supporting me, my clients don't like me, I don't know how I'm going to make my next paycheck, that's probably what you're going to get by the end of the day, right? And I'm not into woo-woo, right? Like the secret and wish type of stuff. That's not me. This is more scientific, right? That if you are like, no, I can see how this plays out. I'm connecting my actions today to my results tomorrow. I'm going to do this stuff even if I don't get any results today. And because someone like Jeff or someone like Scott says, I've done it and it works.
Right.
And you got to, Tom Ferry really helped me understand that if you're in a leadership position for anybody, whether it's a father or a team or whatever, one of our biggest goals is to help provide certainty for people. That's what they're looking for in their leader. They don't need me to solve all your problems or give you some unlock, but I need to say, you're going to make it, right? And if you do this stuff, it works. I've seen it, 100 agents do it, and I promise, just because the disconnect, in this business, today's work doesn't result in today's money. And so you have to have someone say, this is going to work for you. I believe in you, go for it, right? And then they feel that way too.
Right.
And I think that's really important. And I've felt it too in my career. When you're on an island alone, or you feel like you don't have support inside your own walls, and then you wake up in a bad mood, how are you turning that around, right? It's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. And would you say that, across your career, you have watched completely different personality types succeed? Or do you find there are 3 or 4 really specific personality types or traits where can you meet somebody randomly and be like, you're going to be an amazing realtor, and then on the opposite side of that say, you know what, you're probably not suited for real estate? Or do you find that, all personality types work? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, so I got 2 answers to that question. One, I am a living proof that there isn't just one, because I'm not a typical real estate agent, right? As you would label them, from background, from skills, from like not wanting to be out at all the parties and networking and building my list. And so one of the things I think is fabulous is that as many unique individuals I've met in this business, there's unique business models that fit them. On the side, there is some overarching. So I wouldn't say it's a personality, like you got to be good at sales, or you have to have had a customer service background, or you have to really love people. There's people that just want to check the boxes and do the process, or there's really good marketers, and there's really good team builders, or there's really good lead generators. But I think the one underlying thing, especially as I was starting the brokerage, I personally talked to every single person when they were deciding to join the company, and then we also made it kind of mandatory to have a first coaching call. If you never want a second one, no problem. But if you're going to join the company, you're going to get an hour to sit down with me and have a conversation like this. And especially with rookies, the number one thing I'm looking for, because you can't tell yet, you haven't seen any skills, is their own resourcefulness and level of self-motivation, right? Because if you need somebody else to boost you up every day, it's going to be tough. But if you're waking up every morning with this attitude of, I'm going to go get it, I'm going to go do it, and if I don't know how, I'm going to go ask for help, or I'm going to go look it up. And if you can see that spark in someone, I'm like, you're in the right place.
Okay, help me figure out how to see that, because I think you're dead on.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out, that self-starter. Is there indicators for you early on when you're meeting them outside of like, I'll tell you one example I use often. Whenever we hire new realtors, there are certain realtors that are really concerned with, getting their desk organized. Where is my business card? Are my signs printed? And I, being a self-starter, often come back with, you don't have a listing yet. Your sign will be here prior to you needing it. But if you want to get out the door and talk to some people today while we're getting everything organized, you're going to be further ahead. And I do find some realtors like that. I find some, really, really focused on all of the back end stuff before they get out there and make a call. And I wonder sometimes, is it fear? Like, it's time to start now. You have to pick up a call, you have to pick up the phone and you have to call somebody. You maybe have to call your friends and family, let them know that you're newly licensed, you just joined a team.
Yep.
But would you say that that's accurate, or would you, have other input?
Well, it's interesting because I feel like we're just talking to you that, as much as we've had, we're opposites on this spectrum, right? And I feel like Ryan probably identifies more with you. And I've had to have coaches help me overcome. I'm on the opposite side, right? I'm on the analysis paralysis side, the people you're talking about. And what I know about that is that what it really is, it's a confidence issue, right? Where someone like you thinks, give me the project so I can figure it out. I'm like, I got to figure it out before I start the project. Because the idea of getting into something without a plan is like crippling, right? Versus like, hey, give me the problem and I'll go learn the solution.
You have a brilliant way of making your way sound like the right way, and I love it.
I'm not sure it is though,
just
right?
kidding,
Because honestly, I've had to have coaches, and this comes from, shout out to Doug Hannon. He's still a real estate coach. He was the first guy they placed me with. And I thought I was signing up for coaching to learn more marketing. And he forced me into scripts for like 6 months, right? And he literally, I'm paying this guy hundreds of dollars an hour just to role play with me, right? But he's like, this is what you need. And I'm like, okay, I believe you. I really wanted my money back and to quit, right? But I'm like, I already paid, so let's learn, right? And he was great that he would always have he's like, man, your voice is great. You're going to kill it if you just do this, right? He's like, people are going to like talking to you. So he was a great coach in that sense. But he was also great that he could pull out my issue. And the thing he said to me that I repeat to anyone else that I see has my challenge is, he said, Jeff, you are never going to get to your step 100 if you don't take step 2, right? So stop trying to figure it all out. And that's where I changed my own personal mantra, this idea of having a goal, but not needing the map yet. I just need to know it's over there and get going that way and be comfortable iterating on the way, right? So I've like brought it down 80% to be more like Scott. They're still in there, right? I still like to have a plan.
But really, what I'm hearing is that two personalities that tackle the business from different angles should probably be collaborating with one another, which is ultimately why we're here, right?
Yep.
So I think that we sort of sense, or maybe just fully acknowledge the fact that you do things that are far better in some areas than me, and maybe vice versa. And so if you can actually form a network where you've got some people that are sort of laying the groundwork, you've got other people trying to break the door down, this is a good direction and a good partnership. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I've done way better being in group settings, whether it's having trusted professionals in other cities that we call ourselves a network, or really close, like we're working every day, hitting the phones together, sharing money. But all that, even though my default personality is to be a lone wolf, I've seen it enough that I do better when I have the counterbalance to my skill set around. And so I've always really appreciated that. And I think the people I partner with appreciate that in me too, that I'm bringing something different. It's not just two heads,
right,
collaborating, right, and trying to be like, let's just out rah each other.
Right.
But if I can, take someone who's incredible at just being, let's go, like I joke with Ryan, like we go on some presentations together and our style in the house couldn't be more different, right? And both of them work, right? He shows up with the comps and the confidence and I can make this happen for you. I sit down and I try to give someone an education in real estate and bring them up to my speed so they, don't feel like I'm just magically saying things, but I'm like, I'm going to show you how I got to these answers that I'm going to give you, even if it takes 2 hours. Where I haven't seen you in action, but I would assume it's more like, I can get that done, put me to work.
Well,
right?
It's interesting, this may sound like old school sales training, but the hunter versus the farmer.
Yep.
Or perhaps the 1-call process versus the 2-call process. My assumption is that you have more of a 2-call process. First, is that correct?
I definitely, or more than 2. Like I'm in no rush with clients because again, I'm not, there's that fear too of like coming off of what you don't want to be coming off as. And I also believe I'm not here to convince anyone. Like you can be taught really good sales skills, right? And I remember actually another shout out to Coach Doug. He was like, we got to get you out meeting more people. So he worked on me with incredible, buyer close to appointment skills. And that ended up in me having like 7 to 10 brand new buyer appointments a week. Now, none of those people were qualified to buy a house, but it got me out having live conversations. And that was the skill he wanted to teach me, not you're waiting around for the perfect client. Just go meet 7 people a week. One of them is going to need something, or at least they're all going to remember you and warm up eventually. And yeah, I definitely think that there's the both sides of it. Everybody needs a little piece of both of it, because if you're not having any plan, then again, you're just being reactive. And that's a big problem I see with people who have been successful for quite a long time in the business. If for whatever reason their natural inbound sphere business just blips, there's no replacement for that, right? So there's no plan. So I've always found it's a healthy mix to, work that system, but also have ways that you're constantly bumping into new strangers, or your face is getting shown to people who didn't know you before.
Right.
And that way you've kind of got the both. Back to, you're saying the hunter and gatherer, or the hunter versus the farmer. And I'm like, we all start out hunters. And the goal is to become a farmer, I believe, for most of us, that you actually are putting in effort and you tend those fields and it pays you dividends and your farm gets better and better. And eventually you don't have to have the stress of hunting. But if you forget the hunting skills and we have a bad weather year, or you have a bad drought, and you forgot now at year 10 or 15, or you're too proud to be a hunter again, it's going to be a rough year. So I think always having both. So that's why I never mind, like a total stranger. It's funny, Scott, like I'm a pretty private guy, right? My phone has no notifications blinging, but if an unknown number, I still answer it. Like if it's a no number, I just let it go to voicemail and I'll call them back later. But I'm like, oh, this could be I could be in the middle of a drive or whatever. And they always are. That's just these like random, I just watched your video, or I reached out because this, and then you get into these awesome conversations that I would never go out and seek. Like I'm not gonna just walk up to a stranger and try to like make a friend, right? But yeah. I think it's still fun to have those skills and to keep being out there and just, like you said, not have a lot of pressure on it. Like it's not like you're trying to close that conversation or get anything out of it. It's like, okay, this is interesting. I'm not prepared. I'm caught off guard. Let's just see where this goes, right?
One thing I know Ryan and I agree with when we kind of look to you is that agents really admire you. They definitely take in what you have to say. What do you think that is? Like, I think that it's because you have a patience, you have a true care to see them succeed. But what do you think that is, that, je ne sais quoi, where they kind of look to you and kind of take your advice? Because I'll tell you, I've been coaching a team for 11 years, and I kind of see that look on their face sometimes where it's like, same stuff over and over and over again. We know what he's going to say. And when I watch you, and I've had the benefit of sitting in on a few of your coaching and training sessions, it's like they're on the edge of their seat. And you've been with this, with this specific team for a while now. What do you think that is?
I think that when I come into a meeting, again, I'm trying to reframe things. I'm not trying to change anyone's mind. I'm trying to give that different perspective. And I talk with, like, imagine you're in a bad news situation for some reason, right? Trying to say that doesn't exist, everyone knows that's bullshit, right? And so nobody's going to listen to any solution proposed if you're just like, don't worry, here's what we're going to do, right? If instead we're able to say, yeah, okay, this is reality, right? But we're not going to die, and here's what we could do, right? And it's funny, I think sometimes people just need that. I mean, being a dad really taught me that. Like, when you've got the little kids, logicking them out of their emotional issue is not it. I had to really learn, especially with my youngest, that if you see that certain look in their face, the first thing they just need is a hug, even if they just caused a huge problem that you're upset about, right? The first thing they need is, and then we can talk. And at some level, I feel like I help provide that for everyone in my world.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, it's like, let's do that first. Let's also get to know each other so that you actually believe that I'm not just trying to get my goal through you, or just try to pitch you here's step one from the book, right? But I do take as much time as possible to really listen and be like, hey, here's something that's not just like Jeff's canned answer, but you're firing these neurons from this training I listened to, or I've had this conversation with someone else before that sounded just the same. And it's like bringing all that back. So I'm just trying really hard all the time to not just give my speech. Like most of the stuff is not prepared,
right?
Like all these presentations, I don't have lines or whatever, right? Most of it's coming total free out of the mind, based on what I see, right?
So let's transfer that into a real problem that agents are facing right now,
Yeah.
which is the seller's calling, the house isn't sold. The immediate reaction for most agents is, you need to lower your price, you need to lower your price. Does that seller just want a warm hug at that point? And what is the proper way to handle that conversation?
For sure. I mean, first of all, the biggest mistake is to take it as a defensive thing. Like they're calling to complain at you. No, they're calling you because you're their real estate agent. Like they need to talk to you, right? Obviously, if it's gotten that far, hopefully the next time you're the one initiating those calls, right? It's better for you to call and say, hey, I've been watching the data. I'm not happy with the results, right? I'd like to have a strategy call. So if you can get out in front of that, and one way to do that is obviously to have it be regular, right? When I was doing a lot of active listings myself, it was something we sent out a prepared report every Tuesday, right? With market stats, anything that sold recently, little charts, and a little blurb for me. And it would also say, hey, I put this all together today, right? If you want to discuss any of it in depth, call me back, right? Now flip the side to where maybe I think, oh, the client needs to, like, I want the house to sell, right? And I'm like, man, this house, I know that it needs a price reduction, right? But again, what I need is not the most important thing in the relationship. So we have to start from a place of the same advice, right? It's like you want to open those conversations with, how you feeling, right? And reminding your client that we're on the same page together. You're not happy that I was selling, either am I. I'm like, you're less happy. But I'm not saying I'm more, but I'm in line somewhere 3 or 4 because I'm working my ass off too. And if this doesn't sell, I don't get paid either, right? So we're all on the same page. And that's the most important thing with these client relationships, is that if your client now feels like you're not on the same page, they're going to go find someone who is, or bullshits them and is, right? And just says, oh no, I'll take care of you. So staying on the same page, and then realizing if the client says, oh no, we want to stay the course, then I want to stay the course. If they say, no, let's get this done, then we're going to propose some changes or solutions, right? So it's always, we got this little line back in our sales training days, but I like to put things like eloquently. At that point, we have to make a decision about either improving the price or being patient, right? It's price or patience.
Right.
And if the client's patient, I'm patient. If the client wants the house sold, I have solutions there too, right? But if you're not gonna match the emotion, and you're probably one step away from getting your listing canceled or being fired.
So we're in the fall of 2022.
Yeah.
Price or patience? What wins right now? Do you think that if a seller is patient, that prices are going to come back towards the seller? Or do you think that it's time to make a price correction and get it sold? And then, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what are some of your forecasts over the next, say, 2 quarters?
For sure. I mean, I think if you look at the hot sheet, like our industry speak, right, of what's selling every day, you still do see the mix of, oh wow, that buyer got a deal, and oh wow, that seller still did pretty good. And so it's a confusing market for people. And what I try to explain to people in this type of market is the buyers are your friends, right? We don't want to look at them as an enemy if you're a seller. They're not coming to get you. They want to buy your house, you want to sell your house. Unfortunately, your enemies are your neighbors who are also selling your house. And if 1 or 2 of your neighbors are willing to let their home go for $100,000 less because of their personal situation, or they bought their house longer ago, there's not a whole lot you can do to combat that, right? That's what's pulling the price down, is when somebody's willing to get rid of their house, then that's the one that's going to sell. The buyers are always going to pick off the best deals when they're available. The last 2 years, there were no deals. Everyone's just paying top price for everything, right? So now that there's some deals out there, those are going to be the ones that move. So when it comes back to price or patience, it again comes to that individual client. Well, do you need this move to happen? And for most residential moves, it's not an investment decision, it's a lifestyle decision, most moves, right? So yeah, if your family's split up because you got transferred to another province and you still got this house here, maybe it is time to reconsider the numbers and cut some ties and move on. But if you put your house on the market opportunistically and you just missed the window, but you still live in this town and your kids still go to the school and you still get your paycheck every day, not much has changed. So patience might be your route.
It's a good point. I'm sorry to interject, but I think that the good point there is that sometimes in business and in real estate, we assume that they just want to get their home sold for the most amount of money, but there are so many other factors involved. The reason people move. Some people just really want that, master ensuite that they've never had. Some people want a new school district. Unfortunately, marriages can break up. Job relocations still happen. So there are underlying reasons why that house is for sale. The main reason is not just I'm trying to cash out at the most expensive price or the top dollar price. So I appreciate you mentioning that.
Well, the other side of that too is, right, like we all know when a client starts down the plan of selling their house, they are not doing it blindly. They've put a lot of thought into, okay, if I get this and I pay all these fees and then I can get this. And if you have to come to the table with bad news that this first number's changing, well, that's hard to accept in a live conversation. They might, especially as a couple or as a family, have to digest that for days maybe and think, okay, does our plan still make sense if it means $50,000 less over this whole experience or whatever? And so coming into those conversations with care too, and not like, like trying to put any fear in people, right? But it's like, this is the market. I'm not the market. The market is bigger than all of us, right? So we can't fight the market. What I can keep doing is keep bringing you the information and keep suggesting adjustments to the plan, but also keep checking in on the goal. Because again, it's the goal that matters. Assuming that the goal is just get this done is, I think, where a lot of, for a lot of agents, that's the goal.
That's right. Yeah,
Just get this done.
And that's probably the misstep.
Yeah.
I think for the agents that can be the incorrect move, is like, I just want to get this thing sold, and I assume that that's the seller's intentions as well. When ultimately, maybe the seller's intentions have nothing to do with just getting it sold. There's a whole conversation around why they're selling to begin with, and where are they going to go, and what is the difference, and what's happening in the market they're moving to.
Yep.
So that's very fair. So I know you can't predict the future, but everyone wants to know from a top analyst.
Yep.
What is happening from your perspective? Is the market going to rebound by spring? Do you think we're going to see an uptick before Christmas? So give us kind of what you sense.
As we look at what has been transpiring over my entire career, right? If you zoom out, which is what we like to do, right? We have a large imbalance between supply and demand underlying our real estate market. We'll call this the macro trend, right? And you can see this. If you zoom out 10 years in Burlington, Oakville, Brantford, doesn't matter, and look at just the inventory chart. Of course, there's seasonality, but you watch those peaks fall from historical levels. And I started in the highest of it, 2009, the last really, really bad market. Like, people don't remember, it was 4 times more inventory than is on the market today, right? And banks were not lending money. It wasn't about interest rates being higher. It was like the taps are off, right? And the states, they're bailing out auto companies. So from that point to today, you've seen the peak of every year of the inventory fall into 2016. We had our spike of the 2017 market, and then it fell again, right? And so that tells you that there's more people that want to either form a new household or buy a property in our regions than there are new properties coming online to service those people. Now, a lot of that is outside of our direct day-to-day work, because obviously the new houses, this is a nuance that a lot of people don't realize, but a resale house already exists. So we always think about active resale inventory as our number, but really if you look at housing starts, which is the construction, that's what's really not keeping up. There needs to be more houses, right? And the only thing that would create that at this point is a mass exodus out of the greater Golden Horseshoe. And I don't see that as being very likely, being the most populous area in the entire country, right? It's quite the opposite. If growth is coming, it's probably coming here, Vancouver, the major cities first, right?
Right.
So now we look at, okay, how did we get into this last 2 years of mess, right? That obviously prices had been appreciating at a pretty steady pace for the underlying economics. That supply demand curve, people can afford, everyone's got to just crank up the prices faster than inflation, but it wasn't to the rate it has been in the last couple of years. What happened in the last couple of years is the government cranked the cost of borrowing down so quickly that everybody was able to bid more. And then you have people trading up on free equity from their other house. So it's not like everyone just had all this extra money laying around. It's the exact opposite thing that's happening right now, right? And I want to try to, and this is the central point to what's going to happen next, is the reason that the house prices have fallen so rapidly is not because houses are worth less. It's because the buyers buy based on their monthly payment, not on the price of the house. And if you look at where a house was at the peak to where it is today, the monthly payment is almost the exact same when you factor in the change in the interest rate. So if we accept that, that's the number one driver. Houses haven't just become unaffordable.
So that's a good question. So
right?
Do you think that our average buyer, or let's say the majority, would prefer to pay $1 million for a detached home at 2.89% or pay $800,000 at 5%?
I think they don't even really look at either of those numbers. That's more of an analytical investment way. I heard something brilliant once, and again, these things stick in my head, right? I was watching a news report, and the CEO for Empire Communities was the one being interviewed. And obviously, they're a huge builder here in Brantford. So when this guy's talking, I listen up. And they also do everything from condo towers to 5,000 house subdivisions, right? So they have a good pulse on what's going on in the market. And what he said stuck with me as a guy from Brantford who's down the road from the GTA. We're not directly connected to it, but he said, in our experience, buyers get in their car and they drive until they qualify, right? People are much more willing to give up their commute or that downtown lifestyle or whatever. If they want a yard and 3 bedrooms and a fence, they're going to drive to the community where they can afford that. And so we're seeing the same thing happen. I feel there's a bit of insulation actually in a lower priced market like Brantford or Paris, that if people are still getting pinched and priced out of even Hamilton and what, there's still another step, right? I think this town is uniquely positioned because there's nothing to the west of here. It's a long drive to get to the next town. So we're kind of like the last stop of the GTA bubble as you head west, right? Brantford kind of is.
True.
And so I think there's still a lot of upside. We're still completely undervalued here compared to Kitchener, Cambridge, even Paris for some reason is much more money just because it's a little closer to KW, I think. And so I think we're seeing all that happen. So how does that play out? Well, I think that interest rates, I talk to them, they're kind of like the weather, right? They just are what they are, and we like to complain about them. It's like gas prices or the clouds today, but everyone has to just get on with their day. You can't really change your life that much because of interest rates. You got to just adjust to it. And so it's the change that's frustrating, not the absolute rate. You and I know these rates were around before, and they've been much higher than this. And the Fed's, they're talking about a terminal rate of like 4%. That means we're almost there, right? They're not talking about taking rates to 10, 11, 12. So when we realize we're near the end of this rates hiking cycle, so there's 2 things that happen next. The rates pause, and then the rates potentially come down. Now, timing those 2 things, I don't know, right? The best guess right now is that the rates stop going up by the end of the year. They only have 2 more decision periods left. They're waiting to hear that it's working. Good news this week in the inflation data that it is rolling over and all the inflation indicators are coming down. So that stuff should give the government the ability to say, hey, our plan worked. So say we pause, right? Then what happens is, well, the fundamentals take back over. Now it doesn't just shoot back up because we pause, but the line that we were on before should come back if interest rates stop changing.
Right.
And then any crank down will immediately result in the bump back up, right? And this is the same in both directions, because what you're seeing right now is that, if a price goes up really fast, it's easy for it to come down really fast. But if a price goes up slow, it's going to come down slow. And so we're seeing that the spike from the tail end of that aggressive market has been pulled back. But now we're feeling that pressure that it's like, it's fighting really hard not to go past below a year ago. Right? It can erase like a little 3-month blip pretty quick. And that's because the lower you go back on the chart, the more and more homeowners acquired those properties. Like if you look at the peak of February in Brantford, that's like 100 houses.
And for the average person out there, that doesn't have your experience, has not dealt in the amount of real estate you've dealt in, doesn't analyze the numbers like you have, is it as simple as interest rates go up, prices come down? Interest rates go down, prices come up. Is it that simple?
Well, it's the layer on top of the supply-demand fundamentals, right? So it's 2 layers. We've got that. So I think about it this way. Yes, the interest rates are definitely that top layer that's affecting the immediate affordability, and it really impacts it quickly here in Canada, a lot less so than in the States, you'll find. I've got a lot of American friends, and they are just starting to feel the slowdown that we started to feel in February, because their connection between that overnight lending rate and the consumer's actual mortgage rate is a lot less connected than ours. Ours is felt almost immediately with variable mortgages and all these HELOCs. In the American market, they're much more locked into like 30-year fixed rate mortgages, right? So a lot of people don't really feel the effect of a change in interest rate as a homeowner, the same as they do here. Sorry, I got off track there. The question was...
So what I was just saying is it as simple as interest rates go up, prices come down, and vice versa, interest rates come down, prices go up? And you're saying there's 2 layers to that.
Yeah, so that is true as long as the underlying fundamentals are consistent, right? So we have to ask ourselves, well, what could really change the supply-demand curve, right? So on demand, we could have a mass reduction in demand, and we're having a minor reduction in demand right now, right? Like you see that the sales don't go to zero. There's still houses selling. There's just not as many, but it's not as drastic as most people think. We're having fairly typical number of total sales happening in a month. The other side is the supply issue. You know, how do they fix the supply issue? Well, you see all these proposals. It's like, we need 1 million more homes, or we need 10 million more homes. I don't know about you. It's hard to even get a contractor right now. I don't know who's building all these new homes for people.
Yeah, it is fascinating. It's an interesting conundrum. I have 2 questions for you that I've always wanted to ask you. It was something that I heard at the very first convention I went to. I'm curious to get your answer. So the speaker said, there's 2 questions I'm going to ask you. The first question is a head question. The second question is a heart question.
Right.
The head question was, what would be impossible in your industry, but if it could be done, would revolutionize the business? And the second question was very simple. What breaks your heart? I'd like to end on those 2 questions.
Right. You asked great questions, Scott.
Thanks, man.
What's impossible? I think the biggest challenge in our industry is that there is a lot of lack of consumer trust potentially in the persona of a real estate agent, right? And that's sometimes warranted, right? It's a fast-moving industry. We've got a lot of dollars at stake, both on the sale prices of homes, but all the fees associated. It's a big thing. And for the average person, they have no interest in becoming a real estate expert to do this once every 7 years, right? And that's what I find. And so educating the consumer has always been my path. But if there was some magic wand where, the consumers did understand really what's going on and gave up this idea of like, oh, let's just hope, let's see, but like there was a more concrete understanding, I think that everyone would get along a lot better, right? The professionals who are really doing a great job for their clients would rise to the top versus the people that are just really good salespeople and go home and don't care about their clients,
right,
would fall off to the bottom. And somehow our industry's a little bit misaligned with that, I believe, right now, where people that aren't necessarily aligned with their clients' best interests sometimes are winning really a lot in our industry.
So would it be fair to say, if more agents led with the heart and the money just follows naturally, is that encapsulating what you're trying to say, or is there parts of that I'm missing? Because I want you to kind of hone in on it, because I think there's a lot of people listening that they're at the front of their seats. They want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, and I think to extrapolate on it a bit, it's like right? Like if you go into a listing presentation with a stranger, it's a very awkward couple hours, right? Because you're on show. You're giving a presentation that's designed to impress them and get hired, but you also owe them the truth. And so what if what they're asking you to do, you back your mind saying this isn't going to work? If I tell them the truth or what I feel, they may not hire me, hire my competitor, and still not win. And so that's the part of the relationship I'm talking about, right? It's sometimes easier on the buyer side because you get to work together and go out and see homes, and it's much more like shopping together and helping them. With the sales side, you got to go and give this show and I'll make all these promises and get hired, right? And so I would love if the show could stop, right? And we could just be totally honest. So for example, while you were shooting, I was out in my car having a conversation, and this guy has an idea about what he could do. And I have to tell him straight up, I'm like, the numbers for your house are not making any sense right now, but I'm still willing to go for it. Right? But I'm not going to sugarcoat it and promise you and say this is going to happen only to have to call you in a month and reverse everything. That would make me feel horrible.
Yes.
Like I am so over concerned all the time that I might say the wrong thing, or I say something and someone takes that advice and loses because of it.
I think I remember someone sometime saying that authenticity was the matching of your inner thoughts and your outer words. And I think what I'm hearing from you is you want to be authentic. If you're asked a question, you want your yes to be your yes, your no to be your no. You have no problem taking, the seller's recommendations or maybe a price point that you didn't agree with.
Yeah.
But you're not going to turn that conversation into a dishonest conversation. If you're asked a pointed question, you're going to give a pointed answer. And I love that about you. Okay, second question. What breaks your heart?
Man, you get me emotional with these questions sometimes. It does. It breaks my heart when, you see good people, whether it's homeowners or whether it's real estate agents, just making the wrong moves and getting deflated, or seeing that kind of like negative spiral happen. I have this like theory of life that you're on the spiral one way or another, right? You're either spiraling down or you're spiraling up. It's really hard to stay. That's the slippery slope, right? And so when it breaks my heart when I see somebody's mindset and thinking is on the other spiral, and I want to do everything I can to just inject some kind of attitude or energy to say no, like if we just flip this coin. And I don't know, it's something, it's actually like a disease I think I have, that I don't only like everything you say, my brain obviously, it flips the coin instantly. Whether it's good, you tell me bad news, I think of the good news. You tell me good news, I'm like, oh, well, he is not thinking about this. And so that's what I deal with every day, right? The spinning of the brain. And so I try to, like, back to the coaching questions, I try to just give the person the other side of the coin. So it really breaks my heart when I see, people stuck like that. And whether it's in your career or in your situation, and I try everything I can to be like, let's do something. But I also had to learn that, again, most people just need someone to help them through that process. I don't necessarily have the answer all the time for your problem, right? But I think if we could sit down and have a conversation and just hopefully help change your perspective or help you see it from a different way, that's the solution to that heartbreak.
And sure. we don't have enough time to go through my problems. We'd be here
more
for days.
Episodes.
Yeah, we'd be here for days. Listen, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate you, and just wanted to thank you again. We'll do many more of these.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Thanks, Justin.